Hello and welcome back to the channel, and of course welcome to my home. In today's video I want to talk about a single topic, and that is the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. We have a new detail emerging about her passing and the way that she passed. So I will of course pop that on the screen so that you can take a look. So basically a document has come to light showing that Queen Elizabeth II was still working. She was still signing documents into law, which of course is one of the duties of being sovereign. You sign what the government of the day has debated in Parliament, and then you sign it into law. The laws that she signed on the morning of her, what would have been her passing, her last day here on Earth, were for Scotland, and they were letters patent, and they were signed in her own hand. I'll pop it on screen so you can see. She signed 6 of them on the morning of her passing, which of course was the 8th of September 2022, and she was aged 96, having just celebrated her Jubilee. Let's do a little bit of kind of backtracking. So we do know that we got the announcement, Liz Truss was contacted in Parliament. She was kind of passed this kind of message across about the Queen's health. An announcement was made at 12:30 here in the UK, saying that doctors had concerns for the Queen's health. And that was the first that we'd sort of heard about it. Apparently, we learned later on that that announcement was supposed to go out at 11:30. So that kind of puts it an hour earlier. We know from the death certificate that the official time of death was 3:10 in the United Kingdom. And it was announced to the wider public and the world at 6:30 p.m. on the same day. So whatever happened to the Queen on that day would likely have happened before 11 a.m. in the morning. If an announcement was supposed to go out at 11:30, that half an hour would have given the palace time to create something to pass to those who needed to know. So it just kind of says to me that if she was signing these 6 documents into law in the morning, that thing would have happened between probably 8 a.m. I mean, I'm making an assumption here that she perhaps was awoken, or perhaps her get-up time was round about 8 a.m. It could have been 9, but it certainly would have been before 11, and she would have signed those documents. Whether or not she signed them from bed, or whether or not she was well enough to get up that morning and have breakfast, we don't know. We certainly think that she wasn't eating a lot around that time. So something happened between 8 a.m, we think, and 11. Something that I don't think the royal family were expecting. And I say that because we also had some information from her stables back at Windsor, saying that they expected her to come back from the Balmoral break. They'd already made plans for her to see horses. So I don't think the royal family necessarily, although the Queen was declining in health and she'd had all of the mobility issues throughout that past year, I don't think they thought that this was going to be her last holiday. I thought that they had made plans for her to return and carry on with duties after the normal Balmoral summer holiday had finished, which indicates to me that this was a bit of a surprise. With regards to the Queen's health, we have had lots of speculation. The most speculation that's gained the traction is, of course, the putting out there of bone cancer. That has been put out by Lady Colin Campbell and by Giles Brandreth. Now, Both claim to have sources, both claim to be in the know. I think it's important at this stage not to put out information which potentially could be false. And I'll get to why potentially it could be false. It could also be true. But at the moment, the official line from the death certificate is the cause of death was old age. Now, here in the UK, you can actually use old age as a cause of death. Yes, there will be a technical medical reason as to why the person lost their life, but a lot of these ailments are age related. So in the UK, if someone has a general decline in health, and I do believe that they are cared for at home, which the Queen was by her physicians, and anyone medical coming into that setting, then old age can be listed as a cause of death, even if there was, for example, pneumonia or something that actually caused that passing. I know that that's true because that happened to my own grandmother. She had dementia and eventually she passed away by having age-related pneumonia, but they still put old age on the death certificate and she was cared for and passed away at home. So I know that's true from my own experiences here in the UK. I know that's different for other countries in the world, but in the UK, that is something that is done. So with regards to the accusation, rumour of bone cancer, it is a possibility. The symptoms can and do fit with Elizabeth's decline. However, so do many, many other ailments as well. So it's very difficult to kind of pinpoint those symptoms and apportion it to one particular illness. I also think it's curious that only 2 people have come forward and made that claim. And it is entirely feasible and possible that Lady Colin Campbell and Giles got that information from the same source, and that source could either be lying or could be wrong. It could be false information. It's curious that no other royal reporters have heard the same rumour and indeed reported it as being true. When I looked back at what Giles said, he did actually say that he'd heard that it was bone cancer. So he didn't actually say categorically that he knew for sure. He just said he'd heard, which makes me think that Lady Colin Campbell and Giles had heard the same thing. I'm not for one moment saying that they are purposefully lying or telling a mistruth, but I think it is important because a lot of people, from when I read the comments about her passing, a lot of people have taken it as gospel, and it's not. That is not the official line or cause of her death. It is still that of old age. Going back to the information that we now have about Elizabeth basically working, how amazing, being so dutiful on her very last day here on earth. That is service and duty. A lot of people can preach about, service and duty, but the Queen was exemplary in her service and duty to the last hours of her life. That is incredible and amazing, and we thank you, ma'am, for being so dutiful. We really do appreciate that level of service and dedication. So something happened, and I think something that wasn't expected, because that's why we had that kind of mad scramble of the rest of the royal family. If they had expected her to pass away, they would have already been there. So I don't think there was any immediate warning that the Queen's health was going to take a nosedive. I also heard that reporters obviously were already up at Balmoral reporting for a different event, and they were actually told to stay because they'd heard rumblings that perhaps something wasn't right with the Queen's health, and they did indeed actually stay. I think I heard that from an Australian reporter. So something happened. I think what would the most possible probable cause of that immediate decline would have been potentially a heart attack or some kind of heart condition, Or what I think is more likely would be a stroke. A stroke, if it happened to someone who already had a pre-existing medical condition, it could have just been a general decline in health, could have been bone cancer, we don't know. A stroke at that age could finish someone off. A lot of the times with strokes, people can get better, they can recover. That happened to my own grandfather, who had a couple of strokes and he recovered from them. But at the age 96, when you've got mobility issues and perhaps a pre-existing condition that we don't know about, then that could basically finish you off, especially if you've not been eating as well as what you have been in previous years. Your strength is not up to be able to cope. And I think that basically that's when the physicians looked and thought, we are concerned for her health. It's likely to happen today. Let's get a message across to Parliament and kind of prepare the nation for what was about to happen. And of course, it did happen. But I just think it's amazing that she was still working and signing things into law. Just absolutely incredible. But I think it was quick and I think it was sudden. And I think that's why, let's cast our mind back to the bulk of the royal family being driven or driving themselves to Balmoral. At that time, the Queen had already passed away. So we look at their faces now and, we look at them and we think, we know now what you know, that your mother has passed away. So it kind of sheds a whole new light and a whole new picture on that day's events. Just one piece of information coming out. Now, I want to talk about official biographies, because when we talk about the Queen's official cause of death, I actually think that we will find out one way or another what the pre-existing condition was within the next 10 years. And I say within the next 10 years because I base that on historical knowledge of the Queen Mother's life and passing. So when the Queen Mother passed away in 2002, we had to wait 7 years for an official biography to be written and released. It took that long to go through all the papers, interviewing staff, talking to friends and family. And William Shawcross did an amazing job with the Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother's biography. It's thick. It's a thick tome. I've got it myself. And I haven't read all of it in one go. I dip into it in bits and pieces whenever there's something that I need to know. It's an amazing, comprehensive work. Now, we haven't had confirmation yet about who is going to be Queen Elizabeth II's official biographer. If you have heard anything about that, let me know. I haven't heard anything yet. It's still it's still only been a year since the Queen passed away. So it is likely and probable that there will be an official biography. It could take 7 to 10 years to be released. In the Queen Mother's biography, we had private details about her health during her lifetime that was not released during her life. So we found out, for example, that she had had several bouts of cancer that had been treated. But we didn't find out about it until the biography came out. It's likely that the same thing will happen for Queen Elizabeth II. If she's had any health concerns throughout her life, they will be chronicled in the biography. Likely the cause of death, that whole period surrounding her decline in health, the mobility issues, potentially pre-existing conditions, they are likely to be disclosed in the official biography. It's important to protect the person's privacy and dignity in life, but when it comes to such an important figure as a monarch, when it comes to the biography, it is in the public interest, in a historical context, to know the full and true picture. So there's no doubt in my mind that we will get to the bottom of the cause of Elizabeth's decline. It could just be that it was old age and then finally something happened like a stroke and that sadly finished her off. Or it could be that there was a condition as has been reported by Lady C and Giles. At the moment, it doesn't help anybody by putting out falsehoods. So I think the best course of action is to wait for the official biography, and then we will know. There is no reason for the royal family to hide anything in the biography, because having cancer is not something to be ashamed of. It's something that the Queen may have wanted to have kept, well, she did want to keep her health conditions as private as possible, which is why we only got kind of loose information like mobility issues. So that's perfectly fine, but there is no reason to hide it. That, I don't think there's some kind of huge conspiracy. I mean, so what if she had a medical issue of that nature? So what? It really doesn't matter. So I don't think anything will be hidden or covered up. Just as with the Queen Mother, we have previous here, we have precedent in that health conditions were disclosed after the passing in an official biography of their life. And that is what I think will happen. So a few interesting points raised. If you have a comment, please leave it in the comment section below. Of course, subscribe and give the video a thumbs up. It tells YouTube that you've enjoyed the video and it helps to push it out to more people. Also, feel free to share this video around on your own social medias. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Mwah to you all, and goodbye.